All right, welcome. So here's what's really exciting for me about this moment. A lot of times when I think about sales and I think about shifting the conversation and making $1, I often come to this place with a question, which is, do we have what it takes to not just meet people and generate more leads, but do we have what it takes to take that conversation, to take that prospect, to take that person from here to there? So let me just take a moment and say I am super excited that you're here. And the reason why is because I know one thing's for sure. If you can absolutely just master having effective conversations that move things along quicker in a shorter period of time, I know for a fact that you're on your way to making more money. And more importantly for me, you're on your way to making more money, but you're on your way to literally just making your dreams a reality. And I'll take a quick moment and say, if you don't know who I am, you're like, who the heck is this random woman? My name is Tiffany Largie, and 14 years ago, I was I sometimes say I was a single mom, but the truth is I wasn't just a single mom. I was a person who, I was hopeless. I felt like the world was coming to an end every single day, and it was specifically for one reason. I was in this hole where money seemed to be the roadblock for everything. I wanted to move. I wanted to actually be in a home because at one point my girls and I, we were sleeping on couches. There was another time where I just wanted to have food 7 days a week and be able to feed them. There was a time that I put these kids to bed hungry, and they're 18 months apart. So if you can imagine, they were both in diapers at the same time. They were both not necessarily in formula, but both in that kind of milk world at the same time. And I felt like my expenses way surpassed by year lights whatever little money I was making. I was making $10.22 an hour. And as a single mom, young, in Miami, Florida, where I'm from, where I was born and raised, the reality is that it was $1,000 per child to put them in preschool. I was negative $400 at my little $10.22 an hour job. Every time I looked up, it was like, I need. And I just felt weighed down by this reality, which is I didn't have these things. I didn't have the answers. I didn't know where they would come from. So starting a business for me was not just a moment of, man, it would be really, really nice if I could make this happen. Starting a business for me was like an answer to a prayer. It was a 911. It was the only way that this uneducated, single, young mom even had a small shot at making the dream a reality, but more importantly, just making it out of the hole. And if you've ever been in a place where you just want to give up all the time, the tiniest bit of hope gives you just enough to get to the next level. You know what I mean? So what I've learned over the last decade of leaving that place and starting a business, but then building 3 multiple 6-figure businesses and then going on to build a multiple 7-figure business that was not in the coaching business. For me, it's, man, if I can build a business, anybody can build a business. And that is the truth, and I believe that. When I travel and I see people around the country, and I shouldn't say people, I specifically should say entrepreneurs and small business owners, and I see amazing people with killer products and services around the country, and I'm like, man, what they have is so flipping awesome. And I'm like, great, well, did you get to 6 figures yet? And it's not really because of the fact that I believe wholeheartedly everybody just needs to have a 6-figure business. That's not it at all. What I do believe and what I know for a fact is that until you get to 6 figures in revenue, you have an expensive hobby. You're constantly stealing from Peter to pay Paul. You're constantly going, well, I don't think I'm going to go to that event. I'm busy. And it's the reality that you can't pay for it. You are in this cycle where you want to buy a new pair of shoes. You want to take your child somewhere. Or for me, it was like, I wanted to buy my kids annual passes to Busch Gardens because when you're in Florida, like that's where you've arrived, right? If you have annual passes to a theme park. And for me, I constantly felt trapped by all of the things I couldn't do and all the things I couldn't have because I just made enough. So I went from being broke and in this place of I could not feed Jada Maya to just having enough. And just having enough is good, but it didn't take me to the things that my heart beated for, like being able to do things for my kids. What I learned in this space is that there was a difference between just making $1 and making consistent money. And consistent money meant that I did not get super crafty. Nothing frustrates me more in today's world where we learn this concept of we have to build more funnels and we've got to do more marketing. And if we do more, right, and things that are complicated and multiple steps and very overwhelming, then at that point we'll generate a lead and then we'll have a sale. I'm going to tell you, I left that place, built these businesses, and I had never even heard of the word Infusionsoft. I had never, I had never built an online funnel. I don't even know if our website was working half of the time. That is the honest to God truth. You know, when I got to like $500,000 in revenue, it was like, okay, well, I guess now we have to have a legit site. But back then it was like you had to code and all this stuff. Cool plug and play websites didn't exist. And today, the number one question I get asked around the country now when I teach and speak, when we do our own live events for Onwards to Freedom, or when I'm speaking in other people's stages, I often have people ask me a question like, how did you do it? Because like, no, I don't have 1 million followers on Facebook. No, I don't have an email list, or I did not have an email list of 200,000 people. No, not even close, you know? And the number one question that I get consistently is how? And it's like, well, you master the conversation. When you can master the conversation, you can make the activity that you're doing predictable. And more importantly, you can start to really build your business in a systematic way that allows you to be in total control where you don't feel like you're at a loss. And when I say master the conversation, you know, in our Onwards to Freedom community, we have a program called Rise. And so this is where this training comes from, because I teach this at length, I think in like module 2 or 3. But what's important about that is that master the conversation is not just about sales. It's not just about like, making the dollar. It's also about people that you're connecting with. It's about relationships that you want to have. It's about people that you've been dying to meet and you want to bring them closer to you and you can't figure out how. You're like, well, how do I move this relationship along? We've been like Facebook friends for a long time, or we have just kind of danced around each other for a really long time. The way we do this is by getting clear on our objective about the conversation, and more importantly, being armed with a story, the story that allows us the credibility to walk in the door and say, I am the perfect solution for your problem, and here's why. Because at the end of the day, what you've got to remember is that people are still buying from people. Like, I don't care what marketing guru out there tells me differently. What I know for sure is that there is something powerful about me being able to emotionally connect to that person over there. There is something killer about me being able to connect to someone who's like me. But more importantly, someone who has experience, who has already walked the road that I'm trying to walk on. And not just because they did it in a systematic, number infiltrated way. It is solely because they have emotionally cried as much as I have. They have felt beaten down as much as I have. They have felt a little inferior in a room. You know, I can't tell you how many times that along the way I felt like I didn't have it all together, like I was not as good as everybody else at the table, and more importantly, that I was just this big compared to everybody else. But it came from a place of me saying, you know what? or a reality check, I should say, that I was thinking too small. So before I get into how to master the conversation, here's kind of my reality moment. There are two things you need in order to have effective conversations. You've got to have in your arsenal. Like, they've got to be wrapped up in a little tiny, really important pocketbook that you tuck away. And the reason why is because you have this responsibility to be prepared and armored along the way in a way that allows you to stand out in that moment from everything that the other person has ever heard before. Because, you know, a lot of times we say to ourselves, you know what, I'm going to change my logo. If I change my logo and my saying, and I take a fabulous Facebook profile picture where now I'm like this, right? Then all of a sudden at that moment, we're totally uniquely different. That is not it. It is not the logo. It is not the color. It is not the saying. It is not you having the statement or company policy that says we always do the right thing for our clients, or we take care, we go the extra mile. Like, I can't tell you how much time we, 10 years ago, and I was just trying to figure out, those are all of the things that I stuck to too. But what I learned is that they didn't differentiate me from the market. They made me just like everybody else. And you know why? Because there were a lot of other great companies out there who took care of their clients and did a lot of fabulous things and always had the customer's best interest at mind. And in addition to that, when you think about this concept, when I say the two things you have to have before you start the conversation, before you master having an effective sales conversation that takes you to the door of having someone say, yes, the first time, it is 100% your ability to do this. It is your ability to pull out your story, not a story. I know we live in a time today where I'm watching all of the best and some others who are teaching this concept around how to tell great stories, storytelling. I am not a fan of that. I think storytelling is good, but I think it only takes you so far, because there's great storytelling and then there's you being you. And sometimes, I meet killer people with great products and services who are not ever going to be masterful storytellers. They may get better, but they won't be masterful. But they can get absolutely, most definitely better at being themselves. They get better at being themselves. And what I mean with that is that it's the story that you live is the story that you've lived. It's who you are. It is the core and essence and the heartbeat of everything you do, for the good and the bad. And being a person who ran from her story time and time and time and time and time again, like over and over and over till forever, I'm going to tell you one thing's for sure. I ran away from my story all the time, but then, man, at some point, I had to hold on to my story, because the reality is that you run from your story so many times and then you start to trip on this thing. You know what I mean? You just start to trip and you start to fall, and then you're tumbling down a hill and you're like, holy mother of Johnson, where am I? Where the heck am I? And you've fallen down the doggone hill and hit your head 20 times, and it doesn't feel good. Nothing about that feels good. So this concept, when I think about what really took me from just six figures to multiple, but more importantly, what took me from multiple to I bought out my competitor. I bought another company. I would have never imagined in a million years I'd own a business, build a business, and buy out my competitor. I would have never imagined in a gazillion years that I'd ever build a seven-figure business. Me, uneducated, no college degree, still trying to figure out where his dad is. You know what I mean? Really put this into perspective. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that was possible. So this reality check, this kind of journey that I've walked, I know one thing's for sure. When I made a decision to leave, to absolutely, hardcore, no doubt about it, leave all the excuses of why I cannot be in my story, or stop this game of cutting up my story, because you know how easy that is. We're okay, you know what? I'm not going to let everybody know the whole story. I'm not going to let everybody know all of me. I'll let them know segment A, D, E, maybe M, maybe R, and Z. Awesome. This is what I'm going to present, because these are the pieces that I like, and this is what I want the world to see. That's not how this game works. You can't connect with people and I don't know who you are. Me knowing who you are, you knowing how I am, does something important, and it builds trust. And when you think about converting a prospect, you cannot do it without trust. You especially can't do it without trust, especially if you're selling a high ticket dollar component, a high dollar item. You can't do it without trust. You absolutely have to have trust. And so inside of trust, your story becomes the anchor for this, because when you share your story, when you talk about your story, when you teach your story, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. You share your story, you share the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it is what it is, and all of that makes us complete. So now we have this kind of knapsack, right? And you see me doing this because it's I'm packing, right? I'm packing and I'm ready to go and make that sale, but I've got to have my story with me. And I also have to have this moment of I cannot think small. It's irrelevant what's on the other side of that proposal or that offer or that agreement. What's important is that you know 100% that not only are you a great fit for that entity or for that person, but more importantly, you're the best fit. You're it. You're the perfect solution, because make no mistake about it, I don't want to buy from a half-baked person. I'm not trying to just sort of get the kind of what I feel like. Okay, so stay with me here. Now, when I think about mastering the conversation, right, and I think about taking my prospect to a yes, what I really, truly want you to consider is that you've got this thing, and this thing says, I am really excited that I met you, and that we got the opportunity to talk, and we got the opportunity to connect, and all of this feels great. But here's what's really important. a lot of times we think that the sale starts at the end. It starts with us handling objectives. It starts with us coming to a place of saying quick, spirited things in a really catchy way, and then we kind of slam them into a, I tell you, every time I hear someone train like that, I've hired dozens and dozens of salespeople over my time. I have absolutely not only hired those people, but I have had to coach. I have had to connect with. I have had to get them to make a sale. You can only take someone so far. You can only take someone who is not super crafty with language so far. At some point, you have to just work with the person as they are and not trying to shift and change them. Because when you shift and you change a person and you shift and you change the person and who they are, what you do is you put them in a place where they're uncomfortable and they won't make a sale. They won't make a sale. They'll be in a place where they are not feeling good about what's happening. They are feeling like they didn't do a good thing. They're not feeling happy. They may or may not have gotten somewhere, but you want to feel good as a salesperson, and you want the person who's buying from you to also feel good. So I'm going to walk you through this simple process. And number one, when we think about my cards, when we think about taking the time to connect with the perfect person, right? It doesn't start at step number one. It actually is like a pre-step, and it's really, really simple. We generate the right lead by telling our story and connecting with the right person. And the right person comes along because emotionally, they're in a space where they're like, oh, I think this is something I haven't heard before. And when you think about something you haven't heard before, I want you to think of it like this. Oh my gosh, there has never, ever, ever been another Tiffany Largie. So if I were to walk into the market and I said, you know what, I'm going to walk into the market and I'm totally going to say we're a great company because of X, I may or may not turn some heads. But if I start with my story, I know one thing's for sure. My story is the only thing the world's never heard. When I think about the email, the sales copy, the sales page, the event you want to put on, the workshop, the proposal, the mastermind coaching program, like whatever it is, let's say it's none of that. Let's say you're selling widgets and you're selling books or you're selling some other item. I know one thing's for sure. One thing is for sure, and that's you absolutely have to lead with the one thing the world has never heard before, and they have never, ever, ever heard your story. So when I think about that story, I want you to think of me attracting the right person and using my story to do that. So now I've got the right person in front of me. The conversation starts, and I have my number one objective. So my number one objective is to do one thing, which is I need to be happy. I need to be flipping happy. How many times do we start a conversation with somebody and we're on this phone and it's like, hey, Tiffany, how you doing? I'm so excited that we've gotten the opportunity to connect. Ha, ha, ha. It's been some time. We've been playing phone tag. And it's like, and I'm literally like this on the phone, like, oh my gosh, this call's going to be long. Like, oh man, I don't want to have this call. It doesn't matter what problem they can solve for me. It doesn't even matter if they can show me how to get to $1 trillion and take over the world. All I'm thinking as the prospect on that call is, oh, someone help me. This doesn't feel good. You know why? Because it's not exciting. When you think about your very first responsibility, like the very first thing that we have that we're supposed to do for our prospect is we've got to be happy. Why do we have to be happy? This sounds so like simple, but we've got to be happy. And in our program, Onwards to Freedom, in our community, Onwards to Freedom, we break it down in these two components. Now, number one, we've got to be excited. You've got to bring energy to the table, and you've got to be grateful. Two reasons why. Number one, hell, if you're not excited about your products and service, I can't be excited either. I mean, I really want you to think about that. If I am not excited about the product and service that I have, how can I possibly expect you to be excited about it either? You're going to mirror my energy. You're going to mirror how I feel. And if I am going, yeah, this is a great product, it's pretty awesome, and I really hope, I'm excited that we're on this call, ha ha ha, I think this is great. Like, this conversation is going nowhere, and all I'm trying to figure out is how I can get off this phone. I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to be on this doggone phone. That's number one. You got to be grateful. Let me tell you why. Time is the one thing that I cannot get back. Period. It's the one thing that I cannot buy in a store. I cannot make more of it. No matter how much I work, I won't get more of it. There's no way. So because of that, you've got to be grateful. I can't tell you how grateful I am every time someone gives me the one thing that's more valuable than money. Because they're giving me the one thing that they can't get back. That 20, 30, 45 minutes on the call, they're giving it to me to give me the opportunity to talk about my business and who I am and why I love who I am. Absolutely. Like, you're doggone right. I better be excited. So that's number one. All right. So we start off this call. We're high energy. We're crazy excited. We're feeling good. And we're going to go, Jessica, Michael, Sam, I'm so excited that we're on this call. This is going to be great. And I'm grateful that you gave me the time. Boom. Nailed it. Okay. So now we walk ourselves into number two. So inside of number two, what I want you to think of this is that we've got them on this call. And as the leader of this call, we're the facilitator, but we're really the leader. We're not facilitating a conversation. And that's the difference between having a conversation with someone that's a prospect and having a sales conversation that's a prospect. A sales conversation specifically says, I'm the leader here, and I'm here to lead you because you want to lead them to a path to where you want them to go. So step number two means that we've got to find out about these people. And we do that, and it's called discovery. We've got to discover. We have to discover. Like, we've got to find out about our people. And when I say that we got to find out about our people, we need to know about the person we're selling to. Like, I really want you to put this into perspective. So many times we jump right in, we have this conversation, and we're like, yes, John, you're on the phone with me. This is great. Boom, let me spend the next 25 minutes and tell you who I am and why I'm so awesome and why you should just love me. That's another side. That's another road of, oh, this is not going to work. This is just not going to work. It's not going to work because it is not a you party. It is 100%. It is a them party. And not only is it a them party, but it's about them. It is for them. And this is their moment. And the second you try to take a hold of that, the second you try to run the show in a space where you're like, you know what, it's about me. You know what you do? You lose them. You absolutely lose them. So inside of this space, we want to ask an open-ended question, okay? So when you think of an open-ended question, what I want you to think of is this. You want to learn about your prospect. And if you're B2B, you know, like for me, my open-ended question might be something like, I'm only concerned with one thing, right? Respectively at the beginning. So I'm going to ask a question like, well, hey, how do you make money? That's it. How do you make money? Think of an open-ended question. And the reason why you don't want to ask a question in another way, it's really simple. A lot of times we get on a call and we're like, hey, Jessica, so how many kids do you have? Right? Now, if Jessica doesn't have any children, she's going to go, none. And you know what happens? That crazy, awkward silence. And it's like, okay, this is awkward. Where do I go from here? And so what happens is that you have this conversation and you start doing this. You start zigging. And it becomes very rigid and you're zigging. And it's like, this is uncomfortable. Like, I don't even know if I want to be on this call anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're literally like this, like, yo, how did I get on this call? And should I stay on this call? Because we go down awkward land. And we're like, how many kids do you have? 0. Okay, where do I go from there? Now you got to pivot. And then you're like, okay, so are you married? No. Okay, so what's your favorite food? Pizza. This is how you screw up friendships as well. This is how you screw up new relationships of business partners and JV partners. This is how you just end relationships. because you put people in an awkward space, but they're not just awkward because they don't got no more answers for you. And yes, I did say got. They don't got no more answers for you. That was not by accident. It was on purpose. And in addition to that, you now feel awkward because you're not leading. You're in a reactive state. And a reactive state is never a great place to be in sales because you should be leading. Which means if you're leading from a sales perspective, baby, you're in front, okay? You're in the front of this thing. And it's not really about your ability to zigzag. It's your ability to bring them down a path in a certain, very systematic, clean, sexy way so that we get to the end result. Now, a good open-ended question would not be a question that results in yes or no. If you ask a question that results in a yes or no, you're going to put everybody in a zagged place. You want to ask an open-ended question that gives your prospect the ability to simply it just allows you to breathe it in and out. It allows you to take that person and bring them into a place where they just open up. So if you sell B2C, your question might be, so tell me about your home life. Boom, open-ended question, okay? Tell me about your business. How do you guys make money? Open-ended question. Okay, now here's what happens. Let's say you're hearing the information, you're like, you know what, this is super fascinating. I love it, but I got a question. I'm wondering right now, like, you told me, like, in your mind, let's say they told me, you know what, well, Tiffany, we make money by selling to different countries, or not even selling countries, we sell coaching programs and cigarette holders and tables and scooters. These are all the things that we sell, okay? And it's awesome. Here's what's really, really true about this. What's true about this is that I know where you sell, but I might be wondering, do you do this in your city only? Do you do this regionally? Are you doing this in the US? Have you gone overseas? Do you have multiple locations? There are some things I need to know. So then after you ask an open-ended question, you got to ask a clarifying question. Boom. Clarifying question. So a clarifying question would be, great. So is that regionally, nationally? Okay. That is cutting down the information that you've gotten so that now, instead of it being so broad, you're bringing it back. You're bringing it small. Looks like I'm squeezing something, right? This is super exciting. Okay. You're bringing it right here. All right. So now this takes us to number 3. So number 3 is really where the magic happens. If you've done 1 and 2 right, this person is in a place where they're comfortable with you. They know where they are. You have set the tone. There is high energy, and they feel good because now they're sharing with you. They are emotionally connecting to you. We have a very firm belief in our community, and it is that connection is currency. Connection is how you make money. Your ability to connect, the deeper, harder, and better that you connect is how things move. This is true for marriage. This is true for friendships. This is true for you and your children, nieces and nephews, policies you want to change in your city or state. If you're running for office, like I put this list on, I can put this just about on anywhere. Connection is currency. And the deeper and harder and better and stronger that you connect to the person or the people right in front of you, the more of a shift you'll have, the more fulfilled you'll feel, the more excited the moment and everything in between will become. All right? So now we've put them in this place, and we've got this new thing that we've got to introduce, which is a challenge. So now we ask them this question. We're like, hey, John, let me ask you a question. Like, I just need to know, what's your biggest challenge? That's right. We want to know what is their biggest challenge. Now here, you got to stay with me on this one, because this is like the 911. This is where all people just, this is where we lose money. So we want to find out more about this prospect. So we mess around. We start saying, so tell me about this and tell me about that. And then all of a sudden you find yourself in a place where you're asking them a million questions and they're answering a million questions, and you just all over the doggone place. You're all over the place, and you've had this happen before, and I know you have, and it's in a space where they don't know where to go. You're just talking, and it feels like you're having great conversation, but baby, let me tell you, you're going nowhere. You're absolutely going nowhere, because all you're doing is moving in circles in this conversation, and you're like, okay, so I don't really know how we recover from this, and this feels good, but how do I turn this into $1? How do I turn this into money? How do I turn this into you're going to buy X? And most often, you can't. Most often, you just feel good, the person's happy, but they're like, I don't think I need to spend any money with you because I have most of the time, you have just facilitated a great conversation. I feel good, but I do not believe that my problem is going to be solved. And the reason why you want to ask, what's your biggest challenge? Because you don't want to know what your challenges are. Whatever's at the top of that list, like the pinnacle, the top tier, is specific to this. If you know what their biggest problem is, then you can solve it. Whatever's the biggest problem in the house, gets the money first. Now, if we were in the dead of winter and I came to you and was pretending you and I are married, and we could be married, don't hate, okay? We totally could be married regardless of who you are. And if I said to you, hey, honey, the fridge and no, that's a bad one. The washing machine and well, it depends on who you are. No, I'm just kidding. The washing machine and the heater are gone. We live in New York. Both of these have died in the same weekend. We only have $1,000 to our name extra. Both quotes we've gotten cost, they're $8.99 plus tax to fix and repair the washing machine. And the reason why is because we have a washing machine of the art. We don't have like a simple no-name brand, $499. You know, like our washing machine literally built itself when it came into our house. You get what I'm saying? Like we've got like the washing machine. That's why it's $800 to fix. But what's really important is that at this moment, we've got a decision to make. We've only got $1,000 to our name. Both of these suckers are $8.99. You know what's going to happen. I'm not going to freeze. The biggest problem in the house, we've got 4 kids. We can't be freezing in this house during the winter. So unfortunately, we fix the heater and we leave the washing machine. If you mess around and you do not focus yourself and get really, really clear on making that person the it, or making that person's problem the heater in the house, and unknowing what that is, you're going to miss them. Because a lot of times you think you know what their problem is and you don't. And so what happens there is that you start messing around and you're giving them things, but you're not giving them what they want. So here it is. The reality is that we really want a payday, okay? We want a payday. We are vying for the payday of the century. And we don't want just any payday. You understand? Like, we want a big payday. We want something that we can talk about for a while. You know what I mean? That's going to pay the bills and let us go on vacation and do the next. So this is what we're vying for. This is what we want. Now, inside of this, the prospect is talking. They're talking. They're connecting to you. You're hearing them. But if you don't know what their biggest problem is, here's what happens. In their minds, they've got this. So they've got either this on their minds, or they've got a Kit Kat on their mind. Depending on who they are, they may even have a Twix on their mind. So this is what they have on their mind. They're thinking of chocolate and gooey and peanut buttery caramel deliciousness, right? Chocolate. This is what's in their heart. This is what your prospect is thinking. They haven't told you yet, but they're trying to paint you a picture. If you don't find out what their challenge is and you don't take the time to discover, you know what happens? They've got this in their mind. This is what they're after. And then you mess around and you roll up and you've got this. Now, don't get me wrong. This is delicious. This is pretty doggone good. But the reality of this thing, like the hardcore of this, is that this and this are two different things. This and this are two different things. Now, in theory, you may say, Tiffany, that's not that big of a problem. It is. Because in their pocket, your prospect has money. They've got dollars. They've got money to spend. They can spend money. But because of the fact that you're rolling around, they're thinking of this, you're showing up and you want to sell them this. You want to give them this. You don't know what they want. You whip this out. Yes, you whip it out. They look at it. They go, you know what? This is really good. And I really do. It sounds cool, it's colorful and awesome, but it's not what I want because it won't solve my problem. So stop the conversation stops, the possibility of money stops, the possibility of a sale stops, and everything that goes right along with it, okay? Right along with it, which means that you have now let money walk out the door. You have missed this completely, and you've put yourself in a place where you're like, okay, well, that was a waste of time. And you're frustrated because you thought for sure you had that sale and you don't. And it's not because you don't have the solution that they need. It's because you couldn't get clear in that conversation that this is what they need. And more important, that you're the perfect solution for the problem that they have. Because you've got to remember that people are buying solutions to problems. What we sell is solution, and what they're taking out money for is to solve a problem. Period. All day, all night. That is exactly why money gets exchanged. Now, inside of this, because we're vying for this, okay, in their heart, they're looking for this. And what's really important now is that you find out what their challenge is, because this is where you shine. So this is in this next step, this is where you turn on. This is where it becomes magic. Because now you've got yourself in a place where you are saying to them, hey, here's what's really important. You're saying to them, listen, I get it. I know what you're going through. I know what's happened. I know what's needed. I know where you are. And you know why? Because I've been there. 90% of the time, you're selling something that is either closely related to you or closely related to what you've been doing. Closely related to you or closely related to what you've lived, how you've lived, the journey you've walked on, the story you have owned. And so what's important about that is that now we get to step number 4. And step number 4 dictates, dun, 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 we are going to insert story. Yes, baby, yes. We're going to insert a story. And what's so important about this concept of inserting a story, it's simple. Your story is the only thing that you have that allows you to stand out from the competition. It allows you to say, hey, you may not have ever heard of me, but man, do I get you. Because make no mistake about it. Every single person, bar none, hands down, no doubt about it, they 100%, they want to know that you get it. They want to spend their money in a place where they know they're going to solve the problem right, and they're going to solve the problem right the first time. The last thing a prospect wants is to think, you know what, I'm going to spend this money and I may have to redo it again. I may have to do it again. Nobody wants to do that. There is no fun in that. There is no excitement in that. There is no awesomeness in that. All of that is like a going out of business strategy. All of that is like, oh, this is not going to work. All of that is this is bad. This is really bad. What they really want is they want to spend their money once. They want to solve their problem the first time. And you do that by inserting your story. So if you remember in the beginning of this, I shared with you that we absolutely have to have a story. And you have to have your story. Not a great fun story to tell, but your story, the story that makes you different. And if you do not know how to craft your story, if you don't know what that is, you absolutely need to come spend some time with us. And it's simple. What I know is that your story is the only thing that makes you unique, and everybody's got a story. And your story is the one thing that allows your heart to connect to the person in front of you. And if you can connect the two of your hearts, it's like all bets are off at that point. It doesn't matter what your website looks like. It doesn't matter if you don't have 1 million followers on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram or any of the above. What matters is that they know that you have the capacity to solve their problem in the way that they need it to be solved. And more importantly, when they come to you, you're the expert. And you're going to solve it the first time, and everybody's going to go, woohoo! This is awesome, okay? Now, your story allows you to do that. So your story dictates that you're going to say something like, hey, Jessica, I totally get this. This makes complete sense. I understand where you are, because that was me. I used to be not just a single mom, but I used to be a person who was trying to figure out, how do I generate leads, and how do I generate leads consistently? How do I stop this hustle? You know, for me, I know how tough it can be. You get to $50,000, $60,000 and you wonder, okay, great, well, I'm making some money, but How do I get to this 6-figure thing? How do I get beyond that? How do I actually hire an employee? Because I'm tired. You're exhausted. You're often frustrated. You're feeling alone sometimes. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, man, is this what I'm all doing it for? And I know at least once this year, you've thought to yourself, well, Flip, it'd be better if I just went and got a job. It'd be better if I just went and got a job because this is tiresome. That was me. That's who I was. Once I implemented master the conversation, I went from building to 50, 60,000 to building to $500,000 and then building a 7-figure company. Man, I know if I can do it, anybody can do it. Here's what's most important. It wasn't just mastering the conversation. It was me making a commitment to stop thinking small. Stop thinking small. Boom. Now I am talking, I'm sharing with her, I'm giving her my story. We're in this really unique space. And more importantly, it's not really about me being crafty with words. It's not me about wheeling and dealing the right closing or handling objections. Like, that's important, but it only takes you so far. It only takes you so far because people can smell blank from a mile away. And the last thing they want to do is just be sold to. They want to know that someone cares about them. They want to know that someone's there with them. They do not want to be sold to. And you're not going to feel good if you close somebody and they buy something from you and they don't feel good afterwards. They're going to feel like, and you're going to feel like, and then you know what happens? You become another player in the industry, whatever industry you're in, where you're focused on making cash instead of focusing on making money. Making money is your ability to make money time and time and time again and have not just happy people, but people who adore you and love you and want to do business with you, want to refer you, want to connect to you emotionally. There is nothing like it, and that experience alone is priceless. So here's what's great. You now come to this place where you have inserted your story. You've connected with them. You've plugged it, and you're like, woo, this is great. This is great. All right. So now you've got to do something awesome. You've got to take it home. You've got to go to the last step of this thing. And you know why? Because, baby, guess what we're vying for? We're vying for a payday. Oh, yeah. Okay? So because we're vying for this payday, you have to ask. Yes, that's it. You've got to ask. You've got to ask, and you can't just ask like this. You can't just say, hey, you know what? Let me tell you my story, and I'm going to now wait. Because you're just going to run to me and throw money, slap me in my face, and I'm going to be rich. It's not how this game works. You have the responsibility to ask. Michael, I know for a fact if mastering the conversation has been able to get me to where I am today, I know that I can help you. Let me help you. Boom. That's it. We have to ask. We almost have to be willing to ask only because it's not only just our responsibility, but because without it, they cannot take the next step. And without them taking the next step, you absolutely, no doubt about it, you cannot get to where you want to inside of your business, inside of, you can't help them. Like, if they don't take that step, they stay stuck. They stay stuck. They go nowhere. And more importantly, we don't help people. The whole reason why we have these killer businesses, right, is so that we can actually help more people, not just sell to more people. Okay, watch me now. It's not just about helping more people. It's about serving more people. So we can sell to more people or we could serve more people. Because if we serve more people, but we also don't just serve more people, we serve the right person, right? Like, we serve the right person where it feels good and where we feel good, and we have the right person with the right solution. Right person with right solution, you know what happens? They turn around and they help more people. And if that person helps more people and those people help more people, oh my gosh, you know what's happening? We're helping the whole world. We're reaching everybody. Then we get to reach far beyond where our capacity is right now. So In these steps, when you think about how do I get from where I am to where I want to be, it is simply 100% in mastering the conversation. It is mastering your conversation, and it is turning all of your conversations from this moment forward into something where you become the leader in every conversation instead of just the facilitator. So here's what's really, really exciting about this, okay? I have super enjoyed hanging out, and I know there's a lot of people watching everywhere. And really quickly, if you're here inside of our actual room, there's a lot of people here. If you can just tell me who you are, your name, what city you're in, that'd be awesome. So I know, please, 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 in the comments here. And this is if you're in Zoom with me, if you're in this tool with me in Zoom, yes, that would be awesome. And I want to know really quickly, who is coming in May? Who's going to be there in May? And if you're watching on Facebook, I'm going to make a crazy is that abherd? Never heard before? Am I making up a word? Well, then you know what? I'm notorious for. So if you've never heard of me before and you're like, who the hell is this woman and why should we listen to her? I'm going to make a crazy invitation. We are headed to Los Angeles for our annual 3-day conference. And it is called Onwards to Freedom. And what's so exciting about Onwards to Freedom is that it is the core of how do I simple in marketing and sales. I hear so often my peers and wonderful, amazing people teach so much, and they're teaching something awesome like, let's create more funnels and create more traffic, and all of that's great. But depending on what business you have, if you don't sell something online solely and you've got to interface with people, I know one thing's for sure. If you cannot have effective conversations, you're out of gas. You're in trouble. You can't make money. And I know if you can just simply have a conversation right at this moment, today, tonight, tomorrow morning with someone and feel good about it and they feel good about it, I know that you can turn it into cash. Whoa, we've got Texas in the house, and North Carolina in the house, Colorado's in the house. Whoa, Nevada's in the house. Where else is in the house? Georgia's in the house, oh baby, baby. Georgia's in the house, oh baby, baby. Florida's in the house, oh baby, baby. We just turned it out, oh baby, baby. Oh, oh, oh. I love it. There's so many amazing people here. Here's what's really cool. I'm going to make a really crazy offer, and here's what I'd like to do. We are having our 3-day annual event, Onwards to Freedom. And if you're seeing this because someone killer inside of our community has decided to share this or plug it into their world, and they're awesome and I love them to pieces and I'm grateful that they did. And if you're here with me inside of our classroom, it's because somehow, way, shape, form, we're connected. Now, typically, we're like a secret hidden society, right? We like to keep our family so close and tight because we have the best time ever when we're together. But here's what's true. I have listened to the concept of how do we make more money? And, this event for me is not just an event of 3 days. It is how we make money. So I'm going to be opening our doors and walking through the simple version of how do you make money now. How do you make money with where you are? How do you actually add the next 100? How do you add the next 400? How do you hire the team members that you have? How do you start to scale? How do you start to build an office? And you know what? It all comes from here. I've built multiple offices. I've hit my head and done a lot of things wrong. I've done a lot of things right. I've done acquisitions. I bought out my competitors. And if you haven't seen the list of people who are speaking at this event, from who are my closest friends, from people who have sold their businesses to, I won't say, I'll leave that as a surprise. Big people who have sold their businesses and big brands to other people who have been featured on TV and NBC and all these things. I mean, we've got such a killer event that I decided this week with our community that I'm going to make an absolutely crazy offer. So we're not going to put out a link. We're not going to do any of the above, but here's what I'm going to say. I am going to give away Master the Conversation, which is part of our RISE program. Absolutely for someone to have. Anybody who wants to come to this event, I'm going to ask you to send me a private message or a comment and tag me anywhere where you are watching this. And it's simple. I know one thing's for sure. Not only will this be, if you will, bonus number 1, but bonus number 2 is I'm probably either going to give away a ticket or I'm going to give away a room or a combination of both. Why? Because in the last week in our community, we've had a lot of sadness and pain and things that have not gone so well for some people simply because of either a death in the family or a loss of someone or a loss in some capacity. And this past weekend, I spent time talking with people in our community, people who were hurting. And I thought, you know, for me, you don't know me. When I feel the weight of what's happening, I look for opportunities to give, just to give. It's my way of kind of saying to the world, I hear sometimes ugliness, I see what's about, but my response to it is either loving or giving, because those are the tools that I choose to fight with. And yes, I did say the word fight. You know, I had someone the other day tell me that I heard you say the word fight and I don't fight. And I said, well, you may not choose to fight, but I am totally fighting against everything that fights against love all day. Anything that fights against love, absolutely, I'm there fighting. So inside of that, here's what I'd really like to do. One, I'd love for you to come hang out with me. Two, if you're not part of our community, I'd absolutely, hey, Catherine, how you doing? So cool. You're going to be there in Los Angeles with us, right? I heard that you're coming. I'm so excited. That's so exciting. Yes, I did hear. Okay, so sorry. Yes, I'm so excited like this. Like I want to be like zippity-doo-dah, zippity. I know, now I'm going on a tangent, right? Everybody's like, what's wrong with her? I'm excited. Here's what's really, really exciting. If you can take this concept of where you are and ask yourself realistically, what am I doing wrong in my business? Where do I feel like the gap is? Where's the hole? Where's what doesn't make sense? Where do I feel like I am in a dip? So someone just asked me if I would do another bonus, and the answer is yes, I'm going to do one more. So I'm going to do two. Number one, I'm going to give away. I'm going to give you Master the Conversation. It'll be yours. We sell it. I think we sell it now for $500 if we did. The program itself is a couple $1,000, so I'm actually going to sell just that component. It's killer. It's one of my favorite parts of anything we do, and I think it's great. So that's number one, but I'm only going to do this for like the next 24 hours. That's number one. Number two, in addition to that, I'm also going, if you get booked and on board to come and hang out with us, I am going to do what would be great. I'm going to invite you to a planning session. So you're either going to do a one-on-one call with me next week, or you will come to a planning session for next week. That is it. That is absolutely it. If you've never been on a one-on-one call with me, I will tell you it is super. It is a different experience. Why? Because it's like me, you, and your dreams get into a room. It's like craziness just happens, and it's so exciting, and it's super good, and it's like good for the soul. But more importantly, I'm going to quickly lay out the how. And sometimes when we have blocks in our head, the how is literally, it might not be a big mountain. It may just be a couple of tiny, tiny steps. And that way you're on your way to your payday. So here's what I'm going to say. I would absolutely love for you to consider come hanging out with us. We don't have a lot of general admission tickets left. I don't even know if we have any. We don't put a lot of people in this room. This is not hundreds and hundreds of people in the room, because it's just not how we roll. This is actually a family type room. And if you're like, I don't know if this is real, I don't know if these people are legit, think of like a couple dozen people just like me all hanging out together and coming together on purpose and like locking the doors behind them and going, we are fam. Like that's it. That's exactly what happens for 3 days as I teach marketing and sales. And I've got my friends who are not making offers also teaching marketing and sales from their perspective as they have built their own multiple seven-figure businesses in a really cool format. So here's what I'd love to say. One, I see a handful of private messages that are coming my way, and I'm only going to do 5 of these. So that's it. That's what I've just decided, because I can't handle anymore. And I think there's space for 2 more. So if you're saying to yourself right now, or 1 more, I'm lying. So if you're saying to yourself right now, you know what, I would love to get plugged in somewhere. And even if you can't come to the event, but you're like, you know what, I want to do something somehow in some way, please just let us know. I'd love to connect with you. And so would someone on my team. Why? Because I know one thing's for sure. Everything changes when you stop thinking small. And chances are the thing that's not allowing you to get to the next level is probably this big. And as soon as we move that out of the way, the floodgates can open and killer amazing things can happen. so exciting. So I am honored that you spent this time with me. Oh, and I hope you're coming. You've not heard, on Sunday nights, we've just started Tequila with Tiffany. And so please ask us for the link. It is totally free. You are welcome to bring just about anything. You can bring tea, coffee, wine, water, whiskey. It doesn't matter to me, but I'm going to be on my couch, and I'm going to be talking about the 3 reasons why most people fail and how to avoid becoming or being one of them. And let me tell you, if you're at the cusp and you know that your dreams are like right beyond the mountain and you've been trying to get there, this is totally not a time to miss curling up on the couch with me and having a quick conversation. And I'd love for you to register. And if you need that, just go ahead and tag. And if you literally just go ahead and tag me or tag somebody, anyone who's connected to me. I'm sure one of us can plug you into this talk. It's going to be great. I don't know how many seats we have, but I heard that we might be filling up, so I may have to open up more seats, or we may have to just cut it off so there's not too many people. But it's going to be an unfiltered, very raw time with me as I sit on my couch and sip something. It'll probably be water or tea or ... But regardless, it's going to be something that I'm going to sit for roughly about 45 minutes to an hour and talk. I'm absolutely going to take a handful of questions and probably answer them live. But it's going to be a raw, simple time of connecting. I'm not selling you anything. I'm not pitching anything. There's no offer. There is no program to join. There is no membership. There is no free Facebook community. What else is there not? There is not opting. There's none of it. It is really just me and people and me and loving you, and hopefully you can share some of your love with me because I thrive on it. I absolutely do. All right, so I'm going to go. I love you to pieces. I hope that this time together has allowed you at least a little bit of what you need to start mastering the conversations, being more effective on your journey. And if you've got any questions whatsoever, and if you're watching this somewhere on Facebook, please don't hesitate to ask the question. Tag me and I will totally answer anything related to this training, so that way you can be on your way to making more money. See you in the city soon. Bye.